Omajnatimanlasya Chinanjana Shinakam Seksun Militam Yena Tasmai Sikove Nama Namo Vishnupadaya Krsna Bastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namini Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachaya Dasatarni Srila Prabhupada Ki. Today we will discuss Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 47, verses 38 till 53. The son of the bee, Brahmarahita, and we'll start as announced at the end of the last lesson that we will hear first recording. It's a recording from Narayana Mataji, and it's Uddhav speaking to Krishna. So I will start recording now. It takes 4 minutes.
Perhaps you think your few words will mitigate Radha's grief. Oh friend, it is not so. You cannot repay the price of love so easily. Judge for yourself as you hear about her condition. Radha bathes her eyes by showing them pictures of your transcendental form. She sprinkles her ears with the nectar of your holy name, and she fills her throat with songs in the 5th raga. Day and night that slender girl stands by the window, gazing down the path upon which you might return. Only the gentle breeze from Mathura, which makes the hairs of her body stand on end, knocks upon her door. So this is the condition of Radharani. You may ask if Radha's condition is steady. Listen. Flames of amorous yearning continually burn her body. The signs of rapt meditation rest in her eyes. Her life air rests in her throat. Her cheek rests upon her hand. Her braid rests upon her shoulder. Sandalwood paste rests upon her breast. These things rest firmly in place, but without you, her heart and mind cannot find rest anywhere. Is her condition steady? You decide. What are the signs of Radha's unsteadiness? When she sees that you, her beloved, have gone far away, her sighs are like hot wind passing over a desert. Her face becomes sullen like a closed lotus flower. Her love for you turbulent like the churning ocean of milk, and her eyes tear-filled like 2 melting Chandrakanta jewels. My heart breaks at the sight of this girl. Hari, a single drop of mercy could change it all, yet you remain far distant. Cheater, you stay eternally in your lover's heart, a heart that burns with flames of separation. Still, Radha cannot stay for even a moment in your heart, which is as cold as ice. So Uddhava is being really heavy with Krishna here. He's telling what he saw in Vrindavan. So I'll just read a little bit more. Please give happiness to Radha and the gopis. Allow them to see you. I promised your mother, your father, your friends, your cows. I promised the gopis, and I begged Radha to live longer. I promised them all, I will bring your Krishna back to you. Now, as you have protected the words of many others, O ocean of mercy, please protect my words. Do not make your Uddhava a liar. And so he's really trying to convince Uddhava to go back. So there is a verse from Garga Samhita which explains this. Shri Krishnam Deva Devesham Samanishe Tavantikam Itam Vakyancha Me Bhutam Raksha Rakshkipanite. Shri Uddhava said, O ocean of mercy, please hear my words. When I visited Braj, I promised Shri Radha that I would bring her Krishna, master of the demigods. Now, please give happiness to her and the gopis and protect my word of honor. So that was taken from Garga Samhita. So many reports are coming from Vrindavan about the different gopis, how the gopis are fainting while they're trying to write letters to Krishna. They can't even write, they just faint. And so therefore, so many reports are there, and hopefully Uddhava will bring Krishna back to Vrindavan. So In our next class, we'll hear more about that. Will Uddhava succeed or not? And we'll hear how the gopis respond to the message of Krishna which Uddhava has brought.
Hare Krishna, yes, that we will hear now how the gopis respond to the message of Uddhava. So this was an excerpt from Garga Samhita, read by Mother Narayani. Uddhava was talking to Krishna when he was back in Mathura. Now, we will read text verse 38. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Shisuka Uvacha Evam Priyata Madistam Akarnya Vrachayosita Taucho Udavam Pritas Tatsandesa Gata Smiti. Sukadeva Goswami said the women of Vraj were pleased to hear his message from their dear Master Krishna. His words having revived their memory, they addressed Uddhava as follows. So, it had revived their memory. How is the gopis' memory revived? They remembered how they enjoyed with Krishna during the rasa dance. We will read the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on verse 38. These gopis, who were the subject of the previous verse and were restrained by their husbands, now speak to Uddhava in this verse. It is true, when Krishna was enjoying on that night, when they heard Uddhava, they remembered their own experiences, which were proof of his words. They became satisfied with Uddhava, and began to speak to him politely. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says, yes, this verse was spoken by these gopis who had been trapped in their house during the rasa dance. So the following verses, they are spoken by different gopis. Text 39. So another gopi speaks. The gopi said, "This is very good. It is very good that Kamsa, the enemy and persecutor of the Yadus, now have been killed, along with his followers. And it is also very good that Lord Asyuta is living happily in the company of his well-wishing friends and relatives, whose every desire is now fulfilled." Text 40. Gentle Uddhava is the elder brother of Gada, now bestowing on the city women the pleasure that actually belongs to us. We suppose those ladies worship him with generous glances, full of affectionate, shy smiles. So they got the message, but they are still thinking about Krishna and what he is doing in Mathura. So then the next verse is spoken according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur by the gopis who were preventing of going to the rasa dance. And they are going to speak with bitterness. 41. Sri Krishna is expert in all kinds of conjugal affairs, and it is the darling of the city women. How can he not become entangled now that he is constantly adorned by their enchanting words and gestures? According to Sridhar Swami, each of these verses is spoken by different gopi. Yeah. We heard already. 42. O saintly one, does Govinda even remember us? His conversations with the city women? Does he ever mention us village girls as he freely talks with them? Someone can read the purport, please.
The gopis were so completely in love with Krishna, without selfish motive, that even in their great disappointment, they never considered giving their love to another. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti interprets their feelings as follows. The gopis might say, "Surely Krishna has abandoned us, because we deserve to be abandoned. Indeed, we are the most insignificant women in the world, and have been rejected after having been enjoyed. Still, do we sometimes enter into his memory on account of some good quality of ours, or even because of something we did wrong? Krishna must speak very freely with the city women. He and they must sing, joke, make riddles, and talk about so many things. Does Krishna ever say, 'My dear city women, your sophisticated singing and speech is unknown to the gopis in my home village. They couldn't understand these things.' Does he ever speak about us, even in that way?"
Thank you. So they are thinking about Krishna. What is he doing? What is he talking about? Verse 43. Does he recall those nights in the Vrindavan forest, lovely with lotus, jasmine, and a bright moon? As we glorified his charming pastimes, he enjoyed with us his beloved girlfriend in the circle of the rasa dance, which resounded with the music of ankle bells. Can someone read the purport, please?
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti gives the following deep realization about this verse. The gopis knew that no place could be as beautiful as Vrindavan. Nowhere else in the universe could one find such a charming scene as the Vrindavan forest, which was scented with pious flowers and illumined by the full moon's light reflected from the serene waves of the sacred Yamuna river. No one loved Krishna as much as the gopis, and thus no one could understand him as well. The gopis rendered intimate service to Krishna that only they could perfect. Thus the gopis were distraught to think that Lord Krishna was bereft of Vrindavan and bereft of their service. Free of all material lust, they were overwhelmed with disappointment because they could not give Krishna happiness in their living service, by their living service. They simply could not imagine Krishna enjoying anywhere else as he did in Vrindavan in their company.
Thank you. So this is the real feeling of the gopis. In their hearts, this is what they're feeling in their hearts. Now he's in Mathura and he can't really be happy. He's only happy with Srimati Radharani and the gopis. They only understand him. Their unhappiness, how in separation from Krishna, was that Krishna unhappy? How in separation from Krishna was that Krishna was unhappy? Their understanding is that Krishna is not happy in Mathura, and so therefore they are also unhappy in separation, because they are feeling that we can make him happy, but now it's not with us. So he must be not very happy. That text 44. Will that descendant of Dasara return here, and by the touch of his limbs bring back to life those who are now burning with the grief he himself has caused? Will he save us in that way, as Lord Indra brings a forest back to life with his watering-bearing clouds? You read the purpose of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. One gopi among them spoke, "O friends, because Krishna is unhappy, he will immediately return here." Another gopi, believing this, then spoke, "Will they really come to Vraj and revive us, who are burning up with grief because of him, by showing us his beautiful limbs?" 45. So, but Why should Krishna come here after winning a kingdom, killing his enemies, and marrying the daughters of kings? He's satisfied there, surrounded by all his friends and well-wishers. That Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. Hearing this, one obstinate gopi of the Vamya nature spoke. "O friends, foolish women, you do not know at all what happiness Krishna gets during the rasa dance. Hear from me what type of happiness he likes." Then she spoke this verse with crooked words. "Why will he come to Vraj? Here herding the cows is full of difficulties. There in Mathura he has obtained the kingdom. Here he can enjoy with coward women, and there he can enjoy with so many women. Here he is coward, there he is a king. At some time he will get married. In the Puranas, when it is mentioned that Krishna married Rukmini in Mathura, it should be understood to be an incident from a different yuga cycle. In the Gopala Tapani Upanishad it is said, having gone to Mathura, the Lord lived there happily along with Balaram, Aniruddha, Pradyumna and Rukmini. That 45. So Radharani, she belongs to the left wing gopis, left wing camp. So there is a constant rivalry between the women of Braj and the women of Mathura and Dwaraka. This is always going on. There is evidence of this later on in Srimad Bhagavatam in chapter 83, where the queens, the wives of Krishna, speak a verse. They say, "We desire the same contact with the Lord's feet, the young women of Braj, the coward boys and aborigines, Pulinda women. They desire the touch of the dust he leaves on the plants and grass when he tends the cows." So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the gopis consider the sophisticated women of Dwarka and Mathura the most serious threat on their hold on Krishna, confessing their anxiety to Uddhav. Now, Rukmini and her 7 chief co-wives, the first 8 queens, consider themselves so fortunate they don't desire to see him as he is in Vrindavan, and they think this is quite good. But the 16,000 lesser queens, they heard Uddhav describing Radha's qualities, and they wanted to touch the dust that falls from Krishna's feet. So we go back. Yeah. So the 16,000 lesser queens desire to get the mercy of Vraj. That is why after the Mausla Lila, the 16,000 queens were stolen by Arjuna and by Lord Krishna himself. So we get deeper insights here, why that happens. 46. The great soul Krishna is the Lord of the gods of fortune, and he automatically achieves whatever he desires. How can we forest dwellers or any other women fulfill his purposes when he is already fulfilled within himself? So can someone read the purport, please?
Although the gopis lamented that Krishna was associating with the city women of Mathura, they now realize that as the absolute person of the Godhead, he has no need for any woman. It is out of his causeless mercy that he awards his association to his loving devotees.
Thank you. Text 47. Indeed, the greatest happiness is to renounce all desires, as even the prostitute Pingala has declared. Yet even though we know this, we cannot give up our hopes of attaining Krishna. So according to, purport. The story of Pingala is narrated in the 11th canto, 8th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We will get that to study that as a part of the 24 Gurus, the 11th canto. So according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, she had a desire for other men than Krishna, but she could, Pingala, she had a desire for other men than Krishna, but she could not give up those desires. So how can we give up those desires? We cannot do that. No. That's the point. Text 48. Who can bear to give up intimate talks with Lord Uttamasloka? Although he shows no interest in her, Goddess Shri never moves from her place on his chest. So again, Uttamasloka we have here. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Though a greedy man may not attain his desired object, he cannot give up the desire for the object, who has the ability to give up the beauty and sweetness of Krishna. Uttamasloka, once having attained it, no one can. Though Lakshmi is ignored by Krishna, she does not give up the chest of Krishna, but remains there always as a golden line. Verse 49. Dear Uddhava Prabhu, when Krishna was there in the company of Sankarshan, he enjoyed all these rivers, hills, forest cows and flute sounds. 50. All these remind us constantly of Nanda's son. Indeed, because we see Krishna's footprints, we are marked with divine symbols. We can never forget them. The purport of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. When the memory of a desired object vanishes, the hopes for it also vanish. However, they will never happen with us. We can never forget him. This is expressed in 3 verses. The rivers, the hills, forest, cows and flute were served or used archita by Krishna. We cannot forget him because of his footprints remaining in the earth and stone, marked with the thunderbolt flag and other symbols. So even though Krishna is left, they cannot give up their hope. Srimad Bhagavatamrita talks about separation. It's a very interesting analysis of separation from Krishna. There is a verse 1:7 and 1:28. So one may want to feel that separation again, and may indeed feel distressed if one cannot. Thus a person who can remind one of a beloved not present is considered the most sincere and helpful friend. Commentary. The neophyte mind may still be confused. So Uddhava is considered the most sincere and helpful friend in this world. The more one is happy now, the more one will feel depression later. Because in this world everything comes and everything goes, and it leads to disappointed because everything is changing in this world. But prema is different. So when the bliss of prema is interrupted by the pain of separation, one is plunged into the worst distress. Of course, that is how the neophyte might think. So to dispel the confusion, Krishna proves that the apparent pain of Mahabhav is in fact pleasure. So this verse is quoted as evidence that prema is bliss. The feeling in separation from Krishna is happiness, factually. Commentary by Sanatan Goswami. The hearts of devotees absorbed in Virahabhav are unavoidably compelled to see more of it. They want more. They cannot tolerate losing this ecstasy. Krishna's proof is simple. How can anyone's heart feel the urge to suffer pain unless the pain is really pleasure? Outsiders may judge devotees' pain as suffering, and a devotee may speak and act as if it were suffering, but the truth must be just the opposite. Judging from the strength of devotees' urge to continue suffering, the bhav must be in fact ultimate happiness. Just a moment, I have someone wanting to come in here. Okay, we are here again. Judging from the strength of devotees' urge to continue suffering vira bhav.
Maharaj, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Judging from the strength of devotees' urge to continue suffering viraha bhav, the bhav must be in fact ultimate happiness. A material example may help to clarify the point. Although the coldness of ice is the opposite of heat of fire, ice placed on one's body may feel as hot as burning cold. In this example, the burning sensation of the ice is illusory. The coldness is real. Similarly, the pain of viraha bhav disguising the reality of indescribable joy. This is what our neophyte mind cannot understand. We think everyone is suffering so much the pain of separation, but actually they are feeling joy. The difference between the ecstasy of separation from Krishna and the common sensation of being touched by ice is that the deep feeling of devotees in viraha bhav is commonly only to few, to Krishna and some of his intimate devotees. So actually, this verse is spoken by Krishna. They want more of this separation. They desire it. Krishna is referring to his own ecstasy in separation and also to their ecstasy in remembering him, especially the Brajvasis. But here Sanatan Goswami says in his commentary, with the exception of the young gopis, because the gopis are never relieved for a moment of the tension of viraha bhav, even when they are together with Krishna, they are in anxiety about losing him. So everyone else in Vraj, they get some relief when Krishna comes back. The gopis, even when Krishna comes back, they are still in separation. They never lose touch with the ecstasy. So they have no reason to think about regaining it. So they don't consider their pain of separation a goal for anyone to strive for, because it burns them more sharply than a million forest fires. So then these verses are quoted. Then the verses commented on are verses 49 and 50, which we just read. The gopis do not worry about the pain of forgetting Krishna, because forgetting Krishna is something they cannot do, even if they want to. Sometimes they would like to forget Krishna to avoid the ever-increasing agony of remembering him. Certainly, they do not ask to be put into the fire of separation. The gopis feel the separation of Krishna constantly and in a unique way. Therefore, the happiness they enjoy is actually greater than that of everyone else. So this is something inconceivable for us. When we are separated, then we suffer. When they are separated, then it looks that they are suffering, but they look like they are suffering, but they are enjoying. Then there is another verse spoken by Narada Muni. Whether by speaking, thinking, hearing, or physical contact, if any person in this world comes in touch even once with these pastimes of ours and is convinced of their importance, may he be endowed eternally with the power to worship your feet in pure love. Commentary. This is a request of Narada Muni to the Lord, that everyone in the future who experience these pastimes will be blessed to relish the taste of pure love of Godhead. It doesn't matter about caste or any qualification, material or spiritual. Simply come in contact with these pastimes, and the only qualification is to be eager to hear. Yes, submissiveness and eagerness to hear. Now we are going to read text for the 51. O Uddhav, how can we forget him when our hearts have been stolen away by the charming way he walks, his generous smile and playful glances, and his honey-like words? So if this is what is in their mind, that means that they are with him. They are thinking about how he walks in their mind, about he walks in their minds, how he's smiling at them, his glances and his words. And then the conclusion comes in text 52. O Master of the goddess of fortune, O Master of Raj, O destroyer of all suffering, Govinda, please lift your Gokul out of the ocean of distress in which it is drowning. Can someone read the purport, please?
Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti present the following insight into the sense. Someone might propose to the gopis, why don't you just go somewhere else, leave Vrindavan, and then you won't have to see these rivers, mountains, forests. Cover your eyes with your garment, use your intelligence to lead your mind to some other thoughts, and thus forget Krishna. The gopis answered this suggestion in these previous verses by static. We no longer possess our intelligence, for Krishna has taken it away by his supreme beauty and charms. Now, in the present verse, the feeling of the gopis becomes so strong that they discard Uddhava and turning toward Mathura, address Krishna himself with humble cries. They address Krishna as Vrajnath, because in this past year, Krishna performed many inconceivable pastimes to protect his beloved village people, such as lifting Govardhan Hill and destroying many monster demons. Heart heart-rending in this heart-rending verse, the gopis cry out Krishna to remember the wonderful sweet relationship they once enjoyed together as innocent village people. Indeed, Shri Krishna would lovingly take care of his father's cows, and the gopis appealed to him to remember these duties and return so he could resume them.
Thank you. So this is their final message to Krishna. Text 53. Sukadev Goswami continued, Lord Krishna's messages, having relieved their fever of separation, the gopis then worshipped Uddhava, recognizing him as non-different from their Lord Krishna. Srila Sridhar Swami states that the words Jyavatmanam adoksayam also indicate that the gopis recognize Lord Krishna to be the very soul of their lives and the spiritually one with them. So Srila Prabhupada in Krishna book, he is speaking about something which we will hear from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur a bit later. He quotes Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So now, just a moment, I'm going to Krishna book. Krishna. (47). So, it is stated by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that Krishna saved the cowherd boys from the blazing forest fire within a second, while their eyes were closed. Similarly, Uddhav advised the gopis that they could be saved from the fire of separation by closing their eyes and meditating on the activities of Krishna from the very beginning of their association with him. From the outside, the gopis could visualize all the pastimes of Krishna by hearing the descriptions of Uddhav. And from within, they could remember those pastimes. From the instructions of Uddhav, the gopis could understand that Krishna was not separate from them, as they were constantly thinking of Krishna. Krishna was always thinking of them constantly at Mathura. That we will read also the next 2 paragraphs. Uddhav's messages and instructions saved the gopis from immediate death, and the gopis acknowledged the benediction from Uddhav. Uddhav practically acted as the preceptor spiritual master of the gopis, and in return they worshipped him as they would worship Krishna. It is recommended in authoritative scriptures that the spiritual master be worshipped on the level of the Supreme Personality of Godhead because of being his very confidential servitor. And it is accepted by great authorities that the spiritual master is the external manifestation of Krishna. The gopis were relieved from their transcendental burning condition by realizing that Krishna was with them. Internally, they remembered this association within their hearts, and externally, Uddhav helped them associate with Krishna by his conclusive instructions. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is described in the scriptures as Adoksaya, which indicates that he is beyond the perception of all material senses. Although beyond the material sense, he is present in everyone's heart, and at the same time is present everywhere by his all-pervasive feature of Brahman. One can realize all these transcendental features of the Absolute Truth, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, the localized Supersoul, and the all-pervasive Brahman, simply by studying the condition of the gopis in their meeting with Uddhav as described in Srimad Bhagavatam. So Uddhav will be describing the pastimes, and they will be seeing them in their minds while they are hearing from Uddhav. If you really want to understand Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagavan, study the conversation of Uddhav and the gopis, and you find that it really means, this is from Krishna book, what Srila Prabhupada says. It is said by Srinivasa Acharya that the thoughts of the 6 Goswamis are always merged in the activities of the gopis. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has also recommended the gopis' methods of worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead as super excellent. Sri Sukadev Goswami has also recommended that anyone who hears from the right source about the dealings of the gopis with Krishna and who follows the instructions laid down by the previous acharyas will be elevated to the topmost position of devotional service and will be able to give up lust of material enjoyment. So 2 things: hear from the right source about the dealings of the gopis with Krishna and follow the instructions of the previous acharyas and our acharya, of course, Srila Prabhupada. If we follow the instructions and we can hear through their eyes, then we can be elevated to this topmost position of devotional service. So I will read the purport of text 54 from from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. So text, just a moment. '54. This is the last verse. We have long commentaries on it. Uddhava remained there for several months, dispelling the gopis' sorrow by chanting the topics of Lord Krishna's pastimes. Thus he brought joy to all the people of Gokul. Purport. The great Acharya Jiva Goswami comments in this regard that Uddhava during his stay in Vrindavan certainly took special care to enliven Krishna's first parents, Nanda and Yasoda. But we will read first. We go back first to the commentary of Jiva Goswami. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur on text 53. So, when out of sorrow the gopis' hopes for Krishna's return grew dim, and they became eager for death, Uddhava made them happy by speaking different very confidential matters. This is the significance of the word after that tata. They were relieved of the fire of separation by other messages, which were not different from the previous confidential messages. Then they became satisfied. Though Sukadev has not described those messages, one can understand them by the result they had on the gopis. O women, most dear to my life, close your eyes in front of Uddhava, who has been sent by me. Just as the cowherd boys closed their eyes and were delivered from the forest fires closing their eyes, I will deliver you from the fire of separation. Just see my power of yoga. Hearing this, they closed their eyes. In a flash of a second, Yoga Maya brought forth millions of years of time. In that expanse of time, Krishna performed his rasa dance, playing dice, drinking liquor, water pastimes, and swing pastimes, so they forgot the pain of separation completely. Seeing that they were filled with bliss, Uddhava said, "Now, ladies, open your eyes." They opened their eyes and recognized that they had taken a new birth through the bestowal of 1,000-fold bliss when they had closed their eyes. Then they worshipped Uddhava. O women filled with prema, if you are still trying to give up your life, just listen. Do not doubt that hearing of your death, I will also give up my life, swearing 1,000 times. I say that you should remain alive. Though I am trying to go to Braj at every moment, I am unable to go. I fear that it is because of the time, karma, prema, whose characteristics have been explained, or some obstacle. By such messages, their pain of separation caused their thinking that Krishna had no love for them and was dissolved completely. They recognized Krishna as similar to themselves afflicted by the pain of separation, or they recognized Krishna as their very life, Atma, own, Anam, breath or prana, Atmanam. And they worshipped Uddhava. Uddhava, you have spoken well. Even though it is difficult, we will remain alive. If you had not given this message, we would have died, and everything would have been destroyed. We have done a good act by fulfilling our desire to protect everyone, and thus we worship you. The external meaning that the gopis have accepted Paramatma Adokshaya as Jivatma Atmanam is another case of a statement used to bewilder the Asuras. For the Prema Bhakti, oneness of the Lord and Jiva is insipid. What to speak of how repulsive it would be for the crown jewel among the devotees to think such a thing. Sridhar Swami, knowledgeable of the purpose of the scriptures, said any person who has become mad with the bliss in the nectarian ocean of the topics of Krishna thinks of 4 goals of human life as insignificant like grass. It can be seen that it is not possible that full developed prema ever can become covered by a strong dose of Atma Jnana. When Vasudeva and Arjuna saw the Mahashvarya aspect of the Lord, their parental and friendly relationship were covered by Dasya Bhakti, but not by Brahmajnana. It has been seen that inhabitants of Vraj were merged in Brahmajnana, but this was only to show that they had no taste for Brahmajnana. Krishna brought them to the lake of Brahmanan and immersing them in it brought them out. The words brought them out or delivered them is used. Just as the jivas are all delivered from the ocean of samsara, the inhabitants of Vraj were delivered from the repulsive Brahman. If the gopis had developed monistic Atmajnana, they would not have spoken to Balaram in the way they did when he later returned to Vraj. The gopis respectful on seeing Balaram, asked him while laughing, "Is Krishna dear to the women of Mathura, happy there?" Other gopis said, "It is astonishing that intelligent women of Mathura have faith in the words of the ungrateful, fickle-hearted Krishna." Other gopis said, "They must have developed faith in his words by an increase in lust through his sweet, laughing glances." Such future words, spoken by the gopas, indicating their ignorance of Atma or Brahman and jealousy, could not be possible if they had attained the stage of Brahma Jnana. Interesting. So, yes, this was this long purport. So in Brihad Bhagavatamrita. In Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Rohini speaks as she said that she told Krishna about leaving Braj and how it would affect the Vrajavasis. But instead of going, he sent Uddhav, so he was not very happy with this. So many calamities came in Braj, but they didn't care about that. They only cared about what was happening with Krishna. Everything was for his pleasure. Now Rohini is saying, who can bear hear me saying, who can bear hear me saying that is being doing now to accomplish who can bear hear me saying what he is being doing now to accomplish the goal of his other devotees. He went to Mathura, he killed Kamsa, and now he's living with the Yadus. This is very nice, but for the Vrajavasis, they were not very happy. So Krishna asked after Uddhav returned, "You know the residents of Vraj, please it without delay. What is it? Please tell me without delay. What is it that they desire?" Uddhav said, "The people of Vraj don't want from you the power and wealth of emperors, nor the enjoyment from heaven, nor anything else obtainable in this world or the next. They desire nothing but you." So then he told him how he went back and brought Nanda Maharaj all the jewels, and how they were very upset. Krishna thinks that we want his presence and deserve this kind of mercy. They were cursing Nanda and Yasoda. They stopped eating. They refused to eat. They refused to eat, and Nanda was feeling very disturbed. But he tried to convince them. No, Krishna is truthful. He will return. That's what Nanda said. He's an honest person. He speaks the truth. Don't worry. You should wear these things so that when he comes back, he sees you wearing what he has sent you. So Uddhav is trying to convince Krishna to return to Braj. They got the message, so now they are going to stay alive at least. But that is not enough. The Garga Samhita describes how Uddhav convinced actually Krishna to return to Braj. Uddhav asked Radharani, if you have a message, please write it. Radhe took a pen and a drawer of ink, and when she thought what to write, tears were flowing from her eyes. Whatever she wrote was at once washed away by the tears. Uddhav said, okay, don't write it. Why must you be unhappy? Even though you are writing a letter, I tell Krishna everything of your distress. Then Radha was relieved and she bowed down to Uddhav, and Uddhav got on his chariot and got permission from Nanda and Yasoda, and then he left. And he told Krishna, he said, what can I say? Please give happiness to Radha and the gopis. Allow them to see you. I told Radha that I'll bring Krishna to you, so please protect my words. You protected the promises of Prahlad, Rukmangara, Bali, Kadvanga, Ambarish and Dhruva, and now please protect my promise to bring you back. So then Krishna made up his mind. He gave his duties to Balaram, got on his chariot back to Vrindavan. So this is happening about 5 to 6 months after he left. This happened after Uddhav returned to Mathura. Then he brought Krishna. Then Uddhav, he brought Krishna back. This is from Garga Samhita. Uddhav came back with him also. Uddhav and Krishna came to the Yamuna shore, and millions of cows, milk dripping from their udders, ran to Krishna. And cows and calves, their suffering gone, blocked the chariot. And he called each of the cows by name, and they became happy. Then seeing the cows around the chariot, the Gopas said, how is it possible that these cows have stopped such a chariot? This is no one else except Krishna who has come. And the peacocks and arch for Krishna to pass under. They gazed upon him like people who have suddenly realized the truth. Then he got down from his chariot. The Gopas were crying, they could not speak. Then Krishna and the boys sent Uddhav to Nanda's village to say that Krishna had returned. And everyone came and their desires were fulfilled. Nanda and Yasoda came with musicians, mridangas, brahmins, chanting Vedic mantras, bringing water pots, auspicious rice, intoxicated elephants, shackled with golden links and trunks decorated with red. Sundar came in front. King Vrishabhanu and his queen Kalavati also came carrying garlands, flutes, gunya, peacock feathers. All the young adolescents and adults, gopis, also came. Then hearing from her friends that Krishna had returned, then Radharani got up and was very pleased, and she gave her ornaments to the messengers. Accompanied by 32, 8 and 16 groups of gopis, Radharani rode in a beautiful palanquin to see Lord Krishna, leaving their household duties undone, their garments and ornaments in disarray. Millions of gopis came to meet Krishna. Krishna glanced at the plants, deer, cows, birds, and all living entities in Braj. Filled with love, they had come to meet him. Seeing his father and mother, Lord Krishna placed his folded palms on his forehead and bowed down before him. They bathed him with tears from their eyes. As Krishna returned, the demigods showered grains of rice, and the gopas make a great auspicious sound of victory. Then later on, after sunset, he went to meet Radharani and the gopis at the cool banana tree forest. There is a breeze filling that place with mist from the Yamuna, and moonlight filled with the sweetest nectar. Radharani would many times have burnt that forest to ashes with the flames of her distress in the absence of Lord Krishna. It would only be the hope to meet again Krishna that prevented her. At that time, 100 groups of gopis came and informed her that Krishna had come. She stood up, went to meet Krishna, and she offered him a seat, padya, arghya, and many kind of beautiful offerings. Gazing at Krishna, she became free from all distress. She was like a yogi who at last understands the nature of the Supreme Lord and becomes free from the influence of the material modes of nature. She had nicely decorated herself, and she had not decorated herself since Krishna had left for Mathura. She never had chewed betel nut as sweet as nectar, or slept on a comfortable bed, or joked or laughed. Shedding tears of bliss, Radharani said, "Why did you stay so long in the city of the Yadavas? Why again and again in a secluded place I had to bow down to you and pray to you, who are the witness, who sees everything? Neither Sita, Damayanti, and Sudas suffered as I've suffered. What word can I speak about my enemy, which was my separation from you? I was like a chakari bird, yearning for the moon, or a peon, yearning for the new monsoon cloud. I yearn to see you as splendid as a dark cloud, the moon of the beautiful Vrindavan forest, and your saintly friend Uddhav showed you to me. No one in Braj is equal. His love brought you back." As Radha spoke in this way, Lord Krishna gazed at her, every limb of his body filled with compassion for her. He comforted her with eloquent words. Tears streaming from her eyes, he embraced her with both arms. He said to Radha, "Oh, don't lament. Out of love for you, I've come. You and I are not different. We are a single fire that people mistake for two different flames. A beautiful one, as milk and its whiteness are always together, so we are always together. Whoever I am, you are also there. We can never be separated. What appears to be our separation is a lie. I am the Lord and you are my potency. Please see the truth as the mighty wind is present everywhere in space, as water is present everywhere in mist, as fire is present everywhere in firewood, as atoms everywhere are present in earth, and as the modes are present everywhere in the material world, so I, unchanging, the Supreme Lord, are present everywhere. Look at my real nature, and you will be blissful always. A girl with a beautiful face, if you think of I and mine, then we will be separated. As one cannot see the sun when there are clouds in the sky, one cannot see the Supreme Personality of Godhead when one stands among the three modes of material nature. The mind's attraction for the modes leads to bondage. The mind's attraction to the Lord leads to liberation. The mind is the source of bondage and liberation. So one should defeat the attraction to matter and live aloof from material attachment. He says, love does not exist by itself, it must have an object. This is from Garga Samhita. One should love me. In this world, nothing is equal to love for me. Happy to hear these words, Radha and the gopis worshipped Lord Krishna, and during the month of Kartik entered the Rasa dance circle with Radha and the gopis. Lord Krishna plays his flute in the Rasa dance. He appeared very splendid, and he expanded himself in as many forms as gopis, and enjoyed in the transcendental forest of Vrindavan. So Uddhav's mission was successful. He gave the message, they got relief, and he brought Krishna back according to Garga Samhita, Canto 5, Chapter 19. So this Mother Narayani read also from this Garga Samhita, which was translated by her husband, that So now I want to play another recording.
Raj, could I ask you a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
How come Shukadeva Goswami doesn't give that narration in the Bhagavatam? Because it seems like a very significant event that Krishna came back to Vrindavan, and Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to be the Parama Praman, the supreme evidence of Krishna's pastimes. So then why doesn't he mention it?
I don't know that, but this happening in the Prakrat or the Aprakat Lila? That's also not mentioned. But I would think it's Aprakat Lila.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe it sounds like a dream almost.
Yeah. Now I want to play a recording again that with the chronology of Krishna's appearance, arrivals, departures from Vrindavan, that it will take 10 minutes. It was presented by Mother Narayana, and I want to share you this also with you. I'm not sure, I think it's Narayana, could also be Bhujan Prabhu, which here I play now.
To make us all feel very happy, I'm going to read a chronology of Krishna's repeated departures from and arrivals to Vrindavan. After his appearance in Prakat Gokul, Krishna remained in Vrindavan for 10 years and 9 months. During that time, he displayed many sweet pastimes. He appeared to be half again older than he was physically. So this we hear from Bhagavatam. Then, despite the pleas of the Brijvasis, he left from Mathura to Kilkamsa and to inaugurate his mission of freeing the world from its burden of demons. After only 1 month, during which time Krishna killed Kamsa and his supporters and enthroned Maharaj Ugrasena, Krishna left for Avantipur, where for 2 months he studied under Sandipani Muni. So 1 month in Mathura, 2 months in Avanti or Ujjain. Then on or around his 11th birthday, he returned to Mathura to give pleasure to his Vrishni relatives. But he was not happy at heart, for he longed for Vrindavan and the love of the Brijvasis. To relieve the sorrow of the Brijvasis as well as his own guilty conscience for giving them pain, Krishna sent his cousin Uddhava to Vrindavan. Uddhava delivered Krishna's many letters to the Brijvasis and for 2 months gave them life by speaking only of Krishna. When Uddhava returned to Mathura, he convinced Krishna to visit Vrindavan, giving unlimited pleasure to the Brijvasis. Once again, Krishna was a happy cowherd, tending cows, dancing with the gopis, and reveling in the love of his parents. But at the conclusion of 2 months, he returned to Mathura and lived there for another 25 years. But still, he was going every night to Vrindavan, as before. When he was in Mathura, he said, "This is the message, I come every night." Krishna spent most of his stay in Mathura warding off Jarasanda's almost annual attack of the city. So 18 times out of the 25 years, Jarasandha came and attacked. So we'll be hearing about that in a few chapters. This year we'll hear about that. But he did find time to correspond regularly with the Brijvasis and occasionally to even visit them. Out of concern for the safety of the Brijvasis and the Vrishnis, Krishna then constructed the city of Dwarka. In his 36th year, so now he's 36 years old, he made Dwarka. He mystically transported all his relatives to that island capital. Upon hearing of Krishna's move to a distant place, the gopis, under different mysterious circumstances, disappeared from Vrindavan, only to reappear as queens in Dwarka. Next year, we'll hear about that. That is from Lalita Madhava. In the first few classes, in the opening, we'll hear about that. How the gopis disappeared mysteriously and reappeared in Dwarka. Rukmini was the first to marry Krishna. We'll hear about that this year. Then in quick succession, Krishna located and married the other 16,107 gopis. Before most of these was Satyabhama, who was Sri Radha, appearing as an aristocratic princess. But still, Krishna continued to lament its separation from his Brijbasi kinsmen. Even though they all became queens, they were still in separation in Vrindavan also. And they lamented in separation from him. He dreamt about them, wrote to them, sent messengers, including his brother Balaram. So even though the gopis disappear and come, they become queens, but still the original ones are there in Vrindavan at the same time. And he's in separation and they're in separation. Prakat. They're also in Prakat because of the curse of Sridama, that Radharani and Krishna must be 100 years in separation. So in his 44th year, taking advantage of a solar eclipse, Krishna invited the Brijbasis to make a pilgrimage to Kurukshetra. At that holy place, the Brishnis and Brijbasis enjoyed an emotional reunion. So when he was 36, he moved to Dwarka. When he was 44, they went to Kurukshetra. Although the Brijbasis had come to Kurukshetra for a short pilgrimage, their love kept them and Krishna bound together for 3 months. So this Kurukshetra meeting is 3 months. Finally, Krishna convinced the Brijbasis to return home by telling them soon he would visit Vrindavan. Not longer after the Kurukshetra meeting, following Rajasuka's sacrifice performed by Maharaj Yudhisthira, Krishna came to Mathura to fight with Dantavakra. After killing Dantavakra, Krishna gave up his weapons, put on the dress of a gopa, and entered Gokula, where the Brijbasis were waiting for him. So although next year we're going to hear all these pastimes, Kurukshetra and Dantavakra come near the end, chapter 82, and near there. Actually, it happened much earlier. It happened quite early. He was only 44. It happened before the Battle of Kurukshetra. That he actually visited there. That 2-month visit to Gokula had a different flavor than did Krishna's earlier pastimes on the western side of the Jamuna. For the satisfaction of his Gokula associates, Krishna displayed his pastime of marrying the gopis. So this is what Jiva Goswami says in his Gopal Champu. At the conclusion of his visit, Krishna again returned to Dwarka, but remained in Vrindavan in his unmanifest form, as he always does. This time, however, he was visible to the Brijbasis, and thus they were able to associate with him constantly. So at that point, they were so confused, they didn't know if Krishna was there or he wasn't there, because they were always seeing Krishna. They couldn't tell if he was in their mind or if he was out or what. They just understood Krishna is here. And so their separation was mitigated. The Pandavas then spent 13 years in exile. After that came the bloody war at Kurukshetra and Yudhisthira Maharaj's ascension to the throne. Krishna was 57 years old at this time, his emperor cousin 60. Krishna also repeatedly visited Vrindavan during that time. So then he says only a few are here. One example of when he visited, Krishna in great ecstasy went to Vrindavan with Balaram and Subhadra. So Rohini, this is I think from Biha Bhagavatamrita, Rohini was narrating the pastimes of Krishna and Balaram, and then they became ecstatic. Another time, inspired by reciting the Pearl story, he went with Satyabhama. And another time, Krishna with all his queens visited Kamyavan. Finally, 100 years after Krishna's departure from Vrindavan, Sridama's curse expired. Srimati Radharani, along with her other Swakiya Gopi expansions, at once went to Dwarka, where Krishna married them. How many times is he going to marry? Yeah, so one time in Vrindavan, one time in Dwarka. So, it's very confusing if you try to think about it logically. So don't try. You can't understand. Is he married? Is he not? Even they can't figure it out. So how are we going to figure it out? They don't know what's going on. Even the Brijbasis are confused. So what can we think? After this incident, Krishna continued to live in Dwarka with the Swakiya Gopi expansions and his queens for another 14 years. In his 125th year, he decided to close his Prakat pastimes and return to Aprakat Goloka, accompanied by his associates, Tamas, and other transcendental paraphernalia. We will also hear after he visited killed Dantavakra, and he visited Vrindavan, and he took them all back to Godhead. But the ones he took back at that time were the demigod expansions, the expansions who are not the eternal associates. The eternal associates were still there. And now we're hearing about these. In Goloka, Krishna's eternal pastimes, which very much resemble his earthly pastimes, continued as always with some important differences. One difference was he never again left Vrindavan. Or, as Srila Jiva Goswami asserts, when Krishna said, "I never leave Vrindavan," he meant either I'm always present in Vrindavan, even when it seems that I have left, or if somehow I leave Vrindavan, I always quickly return. So we can understand this from chapter 45, which we studied last week, that when Nanda Maharaj was leaving Mathura to go back to Vrindavan without Krishna, then Krishna, in a second form, went back with Nanda Maharaj. So we can understand in both the prakat and the aprakat pastimes, it appeared Krishna left. Physically, like externally, he was not there. But he was there in their hearts, of course, in his bhava expansion. So in the prakat pastimes, it appears that he stayed in Mathura for quite some time. And the aprakat pastimes, it appears even to their vision, he came back with Nanda. So that's the difference in the aprakat pastimes, that he comes back after killing Kamsa. He doesn't stay for 100 years away, as he does in the prakat pastimes. So that's an important difference. So I never leave Vrindavan means that I may just go away for a very short time, but I actually live there. I don't leave. And he's always there in his bhava expansion, actually. So therefore, we can have that conclusion that the message of Krishna is that he's always with us, even if we don't realize it. Now the gopis, they realized, of course, that he was always, after Krishna gave him the message. So we want to get to that position where even when we're in separation from Krishna, we're seeing him always and we're meeting him always. So that is the teaching of our process. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, somehow or other, meet Krishna when you chant the holy name, when you serve the deities, when you discuss his pastimes, then we want to meet Krishna. Okay? So we'll stop here.
Yes, we will stop here. I hope you are not completely confused now, but I'm at least, but any questions, comments, or yeah, things that really touched you? So, Mother Prabhupada Priya, please.
Raj, do you know the story of that Sri Ram cursing Radha and Krishna to be 100 years separated?
Well, I know that, I don't remember the source, but I know that Sridham said something to Srimati Radharani, which was quite not nice, something what should not have happened in the spiritual world. And by that offense, Sridham immediately start falling to the material world. And Radharani said to Krishna, bring him back. And Krishna brought him immediately back. But in meantime, millions of births he had undergone in the material world. I think that there must have been a curse, I don't know. I don't know about the curse, but that's the only story that I remember from Sridham. He went to the material world. But it seems the other way around here, so I don't know. I don't know that story, Sridham. But if someone can research it, if someone knows about that. Yes, Mother Sitarani, please.
Maharaj, the story is given by His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj in his book called Glories of Radharani.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if everybody wants, I can share with them. I can.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so I'll do it after the class.
Okay, thank you. So it's good. Pavitra Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Question that says, explain the song of Uddhava. I'm trying to look for it. I don't know if you can help me, Maharaj.
Please.
The song of Uddhava.
I don't understand your Pavitra Prabhu. What do you want to say?
Maharaj, I was going through the question bank and I saw a question that says, explain the song of Uddhava.
Explain the song of Uddhava, yeah?
Yeah.
That, I don't know. That, I didn't have that question back. But it relates to a certain chapter, or? Because the song of Uddhav is Uddhav Gita. That's the Uddhav Gita. And Uddhav Gita we find in the 11th canto. Uddhav Gita. So, how does it refer to this section? It doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
If it relates to the 11th canto, yes, that's a different thing. There you have the Uddhav Gita, the song of Uddhav. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Here, starting from text 58, we didn't get to this yet, but from text 58, it starts Uddhava sang. So I think it's referring to that.
Uddhava sang.
Uddhava sang, yeah.
Yeah, okay, then we will look at it next time. That if it refers to that section, yes. That's good. That's the next lesson. Thank you. Mother Kasturika, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I wanted to know what lessons we can learn from this chapter as a practical application, because these chapters are very esoteric. So how do we understand to apply in our spiritual life?
Well, I would say these are not chapters like Bhagavad Gita, which gives instructions for life, but these chapters show the deep love of the residents of Vrindavan, and it shows also that in the spiritual world there is great pleasure, and that great pleasure is experienced through suffering, to so-called suffering in separation. That's the great bliss. So we learn that this spiritual nature is different than the material nature. That's important to understand, because otherwise we have a misconception about spiritual life. We think, yeah, I'm suffering here, I'm going to suffer there, but it's not. That's and also the depth of love of the Svajavasis who can never forget Krishna. So that's also important for us. We forget everything related to Krishna, but that's just the opposite. They cannot give up thinking of Krishna. So that shows us what our goal is. That and the importance of discussing with one another Krishna Katha, speak about Krishna, and that will, yeah. Machita Machata Prana Buddha Chantaka Parasparam Kachanta Samam Nityam Tushanti Sharamanti Cha. This verse of Bhagavad Gita is, we see the practice here. The practice. It's, so that's, yeah. Also, we learned from this chapter that understanding Krishna's pastimes, that is very difficult to understand them. That even the Vrajavatis are confused. So I think this chapter has to be understood by the heart, not by the intelligence. Because with material intelligence we cannot understand what love for Krishna is. But, yeah. Right, that's some of the points I had.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other points? Good. Then tomorrow we will have the last session of this chapter, verses 54 till 69. That I will read from the Sandarbhas tomorrow. That yes, mostly, and otherwise there are not so many purposes to discuss, so there will be a shorter section. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Bol.